Hey there. So, the reason why I'm making this video is simple. I saw some Jayce gameplay from today from 100 Thieves vs Team Liquid, mainly on game 2, where Alfari was piloting the champion, and in my opinion, they had a winning formula in front of them, but they either failed to identify it or just did not execute it at all. So, with that in mind, I wanted to take this time to explore a little bit more on the NA Jayce meme. Why does it not work in this region? Why does it additionally feel bad when it's played in this region? And what are some of the things that other teams of extremely high level are executing on this champion? Today, I have brought you guys thoughts from three teams mainly. First one is going to be Damwon Kia, second is going to be FPX, and then third is going to be RNG. And using these thoughts as progression, my hope is to give the viewers multiple options that are being executed on the side of these teams, and then finally finishing with a critique of the game using the information that we have gathered using these VODs. So we're gonna get started with some more basic concepts of why Jayce is being actively picked. He is one of the highest presence champions, sitting at a 55% win rate globally. So there must be a reason why these pro teams are picking him. And this mainly revolves from the fact that Jayce's early combat skills are very affluent, and it is something that it will always ensure a strong top 2v2 and 3v3 in case of support or even 4v4 if mid lane comes up, where you're going to be able to secure early Herald. And with that, then it's one of those conversations that start where what are we going to do when we get the Herald? So a lot of these VODs are going to involve and start around the time where first Herald is being used to top lane to break it, and how the Jayce player and his team moves around the map to maximize their lead. So we're going to get started with DK versus Nongshim, where Khan is able to get his push. There are both bot lanes of Damwon Kia, and in fact, even the mid laner is ensuring that this crash happens despite losing immense CS loss in mid lane and bot lane as well. However, Damwon is able to use this pressure quite well based on the fact that based on the way that they're playing this, and we're going to be able to see this full force. Now, with the reset in mind, we have to keep in mind that like with this wave, Ken is going to have to spend a lot of time to push this wave out. In fact, if he loses mid control, then he will not have a possibility of going past this point without risking himself his life. So as a result, he needs to play this very slowly and make sure that he's able to stack the wave, so there isn't a large chance of the wave being limboed and being messed up, as a result him not being able to farm because it's across the halfway point. And with this in mind, we have to keep in mind the Jayce's movement in order to see what he has in his mind, because at this moment right now, even if Rich has TP, it is really bad time for him to do so. He needs to pick up this farm and make sure that the wave is neutral, like we have discussed. As a result, look at Khan's movement the moment that they notice that Nongshim's members are on the bot side of the map. He immediately starts to turn right this way, like that. And the reasoning is simple, because he knows that Kennen has no TP, and as a result, there's a temporary numbers advantage that was created off of this Jayce movement. And despite them not necessarily requiring Jayce, if the only reason why he is pathing away from here is because he realizes that Nongshim is not fully committing to this play. If they were, they would have been committing to a 4v5 situation. All four of them, if not very close to that number, would have been deceased from the fight. And as a result, like this will be a huge snowball lead from Damwon, despite them losing the temporary gold lead off of the CS lead that they had suffered from the bot side and the mid lane. And this importance of the shoved wave and the time that they have been able to acquire is a concept that is going to be frequently covered in these movements. Now, the counter argument that is often being brought up when there's a Jayce in the team is, what if the enemy team freezes the lane that is being shoved in? And if that opportunity is possible, then wouldn't that make Jayce quote unquote jobless? And this is a prime example of a counter argument to that statement, where Kennen or in V5 is actively trying to freeze this lane. We could see that he is starting between these waves, and then he's going to hold this lane in this specific position, despite suffering a little bit of CS, a little bit of HP loss. But now we have to keep in mind that despite Kevin having TP, Nuguri is the one who is deployed to mid lane after shoving this wave in. And look at the way that FPX plays. Since they immediately get the confirmation that the cannon is freezing this wave, they immediately try to commit to this fight. They're probably not afraid of taking this because a couple of reasons. They know that even if this trade becomes a 1-for-1, and as long as they're aware where Cannon is TPing, spoiler alert, they do because they have this pink ward here, then this creates a large macro advantage on the side of FPX because, simply put, now Kennen without the flash and without TP is now going to be permanently stuck on the side lane with the Jayce. And with the Jayce being able to get the shove every single time, what FPX is going to do is they're just going to shove their lanes out every single time. And that if they get the man advantage, then it will be a completely incontestable situation on the side of V5. And that is exactly what happens. And this is a tendency that is constantly being seen. And this is the way that a lot of teams fundamentally use Jayce side lane pressure to make plays. And then there are actually other cases where instead of the Jayce converging towards a team, teams actually sometimes make the decision to converge into the Jayce himself. And this is a prime example of this game, of a gameplay where right now, with the lane being neutral and barrel being deployed, we have to keep in mind that the pressure of the team, especially in League of Legends right now, entirely revolves around where the numbers are and where support and jungle, which are the supportive characters in the game, are deployed to. And we could see the trickle down of pressure that are being applied in Dom1 that eventually ends up in the Jayce lane. And we could see it by the fact that Showmaker is aggressively pushing this lane, relying on the pink ward that he has on the Shallow Vision. And he links up with Barrel, Trump, and then Canyon, and then makes sure that LeBlanc is not going to be able to necessarily shove the wave out. And then with that in mind, when Showmaker is being able to converge to mid lane, then Ghost, Canyon, and then Barrel are now realizing that Ryze is going to be able to hold the wave mid, so they go back to the bot lane. And then with Showmaker clearing up mid, he joins down here as well. This trickle of pressure is ultimately ending up in a situation that is most ideal for Jayce, which is where they're at a single specific spot and he's just able to throw out EQs and constantly choke them out. And this is constantly being employed along with Ziggs being in the game, which is somewhat of a trump factor. I agree. There are very few champions in the game that are capable of doing something that Ziggs is capable of doing with dealing AP damage, which is somewhat important. And with the constant pressure that is being applied to Dom1, there's only very few things that Nongshim's capable of doing. They could either shove out the other lanes and maximize their farm in that area, or try to fight the inevitable where they're putting themselves in a same exact situation where Dom1 would love them to be, in the predictable place where Jayce and Ziggs will be able to constantly poke. And eventually the poke is too much and Peanut is taken out, and then with that goes down the tower. And as a result, despite them trying to go for the engage too late, the win con has already been established. And then with this snowball, they're able to win the game. And this entirely revolves around, again, pre-planned and pre-made setup. And there's no team, in my opinion, that does this better than RNG. Based off of Xiaohu's gameplay, with him having one of the most excellent Jayces in the world, they actively try to play for times and gift Xiaohu times to land these skill shots that are going to win them the game. Yet, we're going to another time where they're able to acquire the first tower gold, and similarly, Wei is making sure that Xiaohu's able to shove this wave in, and then he's able to reset on time. And with them being able to acquire this tower as well, despite the wave being still delayed, they still are able to get this tower, and Xiaohu's be able to reset, and then let's see the way that the RNG plays the game. Now, with the pressure that they have acquired, they're going to be able to use this Jayce massive gold lead, where he is a whole item ahead of his counterpart, to secure this Herald. And with the Herald in play, he tends to the top wave that is slightly being skewered up, and then he shoves the wave one more time, and then RNG, after recognizing that they have the Herald and they're able to make the waves neutral, with Crime being able to catch up mid wave, also Xiaohu being able to shove top lane as well, they all converge up to mid lane with this Herald. And this is why this is one of RNG's best strengths, where they're able to use this Jayce to the fullest efficiency, and we could just watch how oppressive this shove is just by looking at the amount of pressure Xiao is able to present. And with this type of unstoppable force, in situations where, unlike Nongshim, where RNG is now facing the full opposition of JDG, you could see that with the amount of item lead that Jayce was able to acquire because of that side lane play, and also off of the champion's incredible ability to siege, they're able to take down this tower, get the second crash off, and then also get the second tier mid lane, getting a total of 4 towers in approximately a matter of 3 minutes. And this type of gameplay is something that it is not only a one-time thing in RNG. They do this quite often. So again, this is a scenario where they're able to get top tower with the first Herald. And then this time, there is not as fortunate and they are not able to get the second tower, so Jayce has not been accelerated as much as game 1. However, the game plan is still the same. He's maintaining his lead by constantly getting his hovers and then making sure that he is alone and making sure that these waves are shoved in, and then they acquire the second herald. And after acquiring second herald, same formula as the one that was seen before. They create a neutral wave on either side, and then they converge up to, and then they just group up mid, and then they constantly start to siege. With Jayce being up mid lane, the team slowly starts to join him, and then with the constant poke, they're just not able to sustain the damage. And the only thing that he has to keep in mind is he just has to catch the wave that is coming towards him. And then, after catching the wave, he goes mid, and then starts poking again. And eventually, with this wave, despite the lack of the absolute push that we see in these other VODs, RNG is still able to execute their Jayce win composition well, and they're able to secure towers that will not normally be attained if they're able to keep their same formations. Now, with all these ideas in mind, let's take a look at what happened in the 100 Thieves and Team Liquid game. So, the things that we identified and the patterns that we should probably keep in mind is that Herald is very essential and in fact sometimes crucial to the Jayce macro. And with that in mind, we just need to look at how Alphari plays these lane states after this top wave has been crashed and he has officially been redeployed. Now, the immediate mistake that I notice, especially from the perspective of TL, is that with Kalista and Braum being deployed first and Jhin already being at base, there's actually an opportunity available for them to fully commit here and then get this secured as second crash. Why is this possible? Because if you look at the bot wave, there were only like 3 to 4 waves at best that Jensen could pick up from this wave. This TP to bot lane is completely unnecessary as a result. He's already gotten his items. If he conserves his TP, then this could potentially be a 4-5 man convergence to a side lane and then an unstoppable siege situation that we have similarly seen without the Ziggs, of course, but however, this is compensated by the fact that TL's early skirmishes are significantly stronger at this moment. Just because Jensen was able to recall, and this is at their tip-top shape, that they would have been able to get the second Herald crash if Coordination and Tactical were able to rotate and TF has conserved his TP. However, that doesn't happen, and of course, it's still fine. After all, what did we just see? We saw that the second Herald crash is not necessary for the Jayce macro to occur. So now, Alphari has 2 options. He could either force people towards his side, get the side lane advantage, and then converge towards a central objective that they want to fight, or he can bring people towards him and then do the unstoppable siege composition, which is again very well available because Orianna is nowhere as strong as TF at this point, and Kalista is still at a point where he could contest Jhin in terms of skirmishes just because of how useful her ultimate is. And let's not forget the Braum as well. TL wants to fight right now, but let's see what happens instead. First immediate thing that we must notice is the fact that TL's bot lane, is despite initially pathing mid lane, decides to path to bot lane. This is a sheer miscalculation on the win condition because we have just witnessed as viewers 2 occasions where the second Herald crashes immediately result in great leads, either by a side lane being busted or mid lane being busted. So this is one of those things where I must question why the bot lane of TL is down here in the first place. Because what they're doing is they're alienating the Jayce. The champion that has already gotten a mythic item and is supposed to be on curve is now all of a sudden playing on the weak side of the map. With 100 Thieves rotating up to the top side to secure this Herald for closer, they are simultaneously shutting Jayce out of the game to the point that he is zoned off of CS. And that is something that we have not seen in the entirety of all the VODs that we have seen. We have never seen a Jayce that has to back off or does not have the backup of the team to get the crash that he is required to win the game. The fact that he has to play around the vision line is depressing enough. And in compensation, what does TL get? Yes, they get the bot lane tower, but we have to consider the fact that what would have happened if Kalista and Braum were mid lane to start with, and they were able to converge towards the side lane, and then they were able to play this Jayce win condition. This is one of those moments where throughout these last 3 minutes, instead of taking 4 towers, instead of getting kills, nothing has basically happened, which completely nullifies the fact that Jayce was staying on the top side of the map and Alphari was getting all that farm. It is completely negligent, mentioned. And the nail in the coffin play ends up happening where Tactical is not able to reset on time because he needs to clear one additional wave in order to prevent a limbo. Because remember, it is 15 minutes, so the minion wave acceleration has not accelerated by too much. And with this information in mind, 100 Thieves is fully well aware that there's a chance that this is an even number fight or straight up a numbers advantage. So they take this fight that would not normally be able to be acquired with the Jayce numbers advantage that the champion normally allows the team to have, and then the game has already exploded. There's 100 Thieves is able to acquire additional kills off of this, and then widen the gold lead by just having 6 kills ahead. And then from this point on, the side lane composition does not function as well because with the lack of mid priority that is going to be now unavoidable, then now like the Jayce cannot play. So I hope that there are certain points that we were able to cover of why the Jayce player himself is not particularly to blame. Because when we are looking at these situations, it is very easy to say we just don't have good Jayce players. In fact, it is quite the opposite. In what we observed today, hopefully brings light to the fact that Jayce is oftentimes a team champion. Team rotations and the way and setup and teams rotations are required for the champion to succeed. And if NA desires to take advantage of such a powerful champion with such a high global presence, then it will be really important for the region to learn these proper setups that are being executed by teams in a higher level. I hope you learned something, and stay tuned for additional videos.